We do start. Okay, we do start. Amazing. Yeah. It's so complicated over here. Welcome to our session. Officially, the title is something about picking Epsilon or something. Do you know our official title?
I think the title is Congratulations, It's an Epsilon.
Oh, I like this. I like this, like a very appropriate for me. No offense, I hope it isn't an Epsilon. Yeah, so officially this is about sort of like how to pick Epsilon, but I think we want to make it broader than that, which is like how to actually make DP work in practice. And so let me just sort of like ask the room, how many people here are sort of like academics and you don't really implement stuff, but you like think about it? Okay. How many people actually like implement stuff and make things run? Oh, lots of people. We hear you on Zoom. Although we can't see you at all. Yeah. So we have like lots of people in the room like are raising their hands for they like implement things. One more question. For those who did implement things, who found it extremely straightforward and a very streamlined process to make it work? Zero. That's what we're here for today. Is the fact that it is zero. And we in this room came to Ireland and spent a day or possibly more, if you're here for the Oblivious event, like I'm talking about DP, thinking about DP, and still it is really hard. It's really, really hard to make DP actually work. So this session is going to be a little bit of community therapy as we vent about how hard it is, but it's also gonna once we appropriately vent about that, we're going to think about what might the world look like that would make it easier. So we're going to think about sort of listing out what are the challenges, what are the problems that you face when you go to actually implement things. And then we're going to think about what might a solution to that challenge look like, even if it doesn't currently exist. What like object, device, tool, research finding would make it possible to solve that problem. And we're hopefully going to make this a little bit more sort of forward-looking, because I think also those of us in the room want to make DP easy to use, but I can tell you as a theorist who thinks a lot about this, about how to make DP easy. I don't implement it. I'm not the one doing stuff, and so I can imagine challenges that are facing and tools that might be helpful. But I think sort of having the folks in this room and on Zoom as well articulate what would help you, would sort of also articulate lots of future research problems. Christine, yeah.
I'll ask the first question.
Sure.
Do we have somebody willing to write down the future research problems?
Hold on to that thought. Because that is the sort of administrative process of what this is. So we're going to be doing this in breakout groups. So I think we have maybe a table-ish there, a table-ish there. I might merge these two because you're small, or find a new home, or if we have more friends. Those on Zoom, you can talk amongst yourself, but maybe AV has to find a way to mute you so that we don't hear you in the room or something. Unsure how that actually works. And spend maybe 20 minutes brainstorming both of these things. So you can brainstorm problems first and then come back and think about solutions, especially of this being a sort of group therapy session. Maybe we have to vent first before we can do this more a positive thinking. Or if you want, you can do problem, solution. And I want to emphasize these do not have to be solutions that exist now, but I feel the more that you can sort of articulate what a helpful solution would be if it were to exist in the future, the more that we can sort of move in that way. And I want to give an example. Like I want to give an example of sort of what is like helpful versus not, I think. So like an example of a problem is that like no one knows how to like set epsilon. That's really hard. But if you say that, it's unclear what a solution looks like. Is like people get better at setting epsilon, and so this is not a sort of like actionable thing. But if you can say, we hear some Zoom people, I don't know if we can mute them. But if we say things like, there are no industry standards for setting epsilon, well, then all of a sudden we can have a NIST registry and white paper talking about industry norms around this. So I encourage you to sort of think of this in a more sort of action item oriented way, but again, I think a lot of this is going to be just venting in group therapy and being like, this sucked. And I especially want to hear from the practitioners of what are some challenges that you didn't expect to be a challenge and really were later in the process. I think also that can be really exciting too. So I'm gonna tell you to sort of go in your groups again. Let's have group 1, group 2, and group 3 as a merge group, or if you want to go and change a table is fine. Based on your friends where they sit. And within each group, we would love to have a note taker. It can be a single note taker, it can be multiple, and we're gonna request, do this in a Google Doc or something that is shareable rather than a piece of note paper that you're gonna lose, because I think this might be really valuable to sort of understand later and going forward. Now, I think we do have some grand ambition to maybe write a white paper or something, but I also acknowledge that's a thing that sort of everybody says at their workshop, and it's unclear how many actually happen. But we want to at least allow ourselves an artifact in case that does come into being. Before I set you free, any questions or thoughts or discussion? Christine, yeah.
If not a white paper, can we get a really nicely formatted Slack post?
Ooh.
Accessors to a white paper?
I suspect OpenDP would love that. Where's Sharon? I suspect they would be very happy about it and might even require it. So, good.
Hello.
Who is speaking? Oh, okay. Is there a way we can not have that? Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Any other questions? Cool. Maybe one last thing, just for sort of a permanence of the artifact. Share the document with myself and James as well. And we can pass around our emails if you don't already have them. I think this is a good sign. We should go to our groups now while they figure out how to not have that happen.
And if anybody was worried that they were not going to be productive, the fact that you can attend both sessions. So,
Right.
so
When you deal with
test out
different epsilon values,
different values of epsilon, you do different values.
yeah, it makes it a little easier for me to understand like what is the
Now,
relative
I
cost
can
of
propose
this
one
epsilon expressed by
thing. It's like how you tie the privacy protection level with the risk.
So I'll give one example.
Right. So because the SDC, statistical disclosure,
Worried about
they do some risk analysis.
who would not receive.
Do we have the same for
So one thing I did is
expression
I would
privacy?
translate
How do
that
we do
so
it?
with this
It's
epsilon,
like
this is the
conversation
number
with
of
stuff.
truly poor individuals who are
That for me is like one of the
and a decision maker is like I'm not willing to set a
very
very
useful
epsilon for like 10,000 people who are changing policy
Yeah,
on
up
a
to
day,
yeah.
right? Or I think it's for a bank on like a transition model of this way. Like which perspectives
And also like
program
started to do
profit
some
loss.
more like
But then also that only puts accuracy at the
Are
forefront.
there any
and
models
accuracy in the
that we can
forefront.
use?
I actually
What I do
know
is
them, so I had
I
to
actually
more
then
into
the second part I'm
Models.
I run actually a good privacy attacks on my own stuff. So I say I'm gonna measure for every epsilon, like the number of exclusion errors from the program, but also your risk of membership based on the tax item, and your risk of singling out a
That could be like one way to model risk.
so I give them a bunch of Pareto curves essentially, and I'm like, yo, you're the decision maker on the sciences. Like, I need you to actually is responsible to the government that you work with to make an intelligent choice there, and these are the sites that's like convenient. And usually what I find is I don't just pick the one that's like lowest profit loss or lowest. They're like, no, I understand you get easy to respond. But when you do like this too, you realize it's not just like a privacy trade-off. Even at the same epsilon, there's like a privacy trade-off. Because if you pick one level of epsilon, it might make crazy, like you might have some of the higher membership inference than a lower one.
It used to be
Actual inference might be slightly different. So it really gives, I guess, like puts things in like the language. Epsilon is so like here's like $10 versus like
I don't have
$10
ever again. I just gonna do
That's what we're trying to do as well. Is we have
Yeah.
we built a couple different types of attacks internally, and are
Yeah.
just attacker like first we do the algorithm to make membership private and attack it, and then also start to see the effective real
Do we
world.
have a well posed question or?
We call this like the menu choices from this. I don't know if you all have like a similar phrase.
What I
Like,
understood it was
There's three.
yeah, we have.
a little bit on the privacy,
That said, like,
on the privacy,
I call it a menu with
privacy attacks. Prevention tree was used, right? Or one
So
to,
just
yeah.
think of a process question.
Any other way besides attacks?
Receiver operator characters.
Okay, let me ask you, risk always tied to attack.
And so are you then using the private data, running the algorithm at different values of epsilon to develop these curves here? Or are these theoretical?
The process, like the intention is to make it guaranteed, but we haven't gone far enough.
Yeah. And then so you are actually running a differential privacy again and again, and then they then choose which actual algorithm you're going to use then.
It's not really like clear how to make it
Probably only work if you want.
to speak to little people,
and then
you go like
do a whole bunch of stuff.
It's more like having a data exposure. Do you think there's no link between the GDP perhaps reduces the like why different?
Oh, so you're saying
It's
like
actually like here's the
Well,
so like
sorry, like if I have to raise like daily updates of like use chat function or updates, so like having somebody like
I'm not so one of the things
that's even in scientific papers. It's not kind of like open
is
to
From the perspective of course, no one is like organized from organized organizations that
but like
have
you're
fairly
not necessarily
limited
sure
resources
how exactly that
many people
like
can
your
either that
yeah, actually that's a good one.
like if you say like before you
Because the risk we're talking about was about risk about privacy protection, but we are talking about risk about the accuracy of the results.
That's true. And also, like, I guess one caveat to the thing that
When you protect privacy, you change the
different
results,
curves are
you know, it impacts in the unity of the results. And what you're saying is that, okay, we protect privacy,
but
we get the results which are not
that
precise.
comes from arbitrary choice, right?
What
Like
is
you can
the
make a
reason?
questionnaire however you want. One thing that doesn't give you necessarily a procedure for making it consistent.
No, the result, because of use is privacy, the result will be
any other
protected.
unit,
It will not disclose.
non-unit.
But the result will not be
Uh,
disclosed.
in that time, I've been like, oh, I can change that.
all my data analysis is all
Factor
moving
into
noise
another
from the data,
solution,
and now you come
here's
here,
the one.
Alejandro,
I'm like,
using some noise.
like,
And I was like, oh yeah,
so, but it was hard for me to actually go like,
yeah, because then they get like,
they're not gonna get this, and then like, if they change their mind, I'm like, okay, change their
I
mind.
want to be able to use the
It's
data,
not the same
all
now,
my
here's
effort is
thought
to.
it's gonna be.
Which is weird, because there are, you know, just about everything else, particularly
I think
the
one
libraries,
challenge is
there's a lot of
accuracy is really task
and that's
dependent.
generally the way.
So you like a lot of theoretical papers
So,
prove
yeah.
that
Oh, yeah,
high
yeah,
fidelity
yeah.
those are actually error bounds.
So it's only been like $100,000
Yeah.
SD, and I'm like,
But if
that's
that's not what you're doing, if you're worried about like talent
Trying
that's
to get
appearing,
to compliance,
this is
which
not
is a high
problem
standard
here.
of.
helpful metrics. So even things where there are good like theoretical bounds on your accuracy and performance, that's not the actual accuracy.
Someone who works
But
ways
previous
of
organizations, they use much more
standards
Yeah,
and
because, you know,
frameworks that they're judging
yeah,
their systems against.
Knowns
you're talking
usually
pretty low.
synthesize
And then
information,
look at
Yeah.
all of your
Yeah.
and sometimes too
all
much.
of your
Yeah.
ISO,
Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
protocols
And even think of like a simple example where
all of this
let's
stuff.
say
And when it comes
you're
to
like
DB,
doing the like a Laplace mechanism
the one thing
and
they'll
you
check is
say,
whether your random
well, the
number
number
generator
X is close to
graphic
zero.
aggregation.
You're
They
trying to
know they're
like,
supposed to work for that, and beyond that, it's like, yeah.
In some sort of additive case.
No,
If you're making a binary
you
decision,
say
like,
it's
do
DP,
I,
it's DP.
do I
So
go
that's
with
one
it
of the
or
hard
not?
parts.
yeah, it's like seeing if.
It really matters, is it true that we're close to the threshold or not, and so if it's like, there's like 100 hits area, then I'll build this measure. And the true answer is like
So I think it was, so
99.
yes, to the extent
Saying that
that
it's like the
there
correct
could be,
estimate additive 2 is not helpful,
you know,
even though
I
that
don't
might be
know that
really
it's saying necessarily have to be
good.
prescriptive,
Yeah, that's
but
what
instead of
relating
things,
to what you
if
say.
you're not
Yeah.
doing these things, you're probably not doing
Yeah.
it right, or some way to be a little bit
Yeah.
more provable, or at least transparent.
Yeah.
Maybe
That would be
transparency
Yeah.
results in
somebody,
don't say
somebody
like, you should be able to say your DP if you're not.
risk connected to privacy, but also to utility. But there is difference, right? What is a risk?
So like FIG community at some point.
Surprisingly, though, it was the risk of taking a wrong decision.
Like knowing that like the process takes time, for example, if you want to go through like ISO, etc.
Yeah,
So,
something else.
So it's like 10,000 features. We're talking about.
I think we have something with risk.
you
We do some other areas.
like standards around protocol encryption.
Like
Like
you
the
deploy
ability
this
to
relative to like,
applicative ones,
you know, the question
freedom of encryption.
That's something that Ben brought down.
So this is sort of FIG.org.
Do we like go around the table and
standardization
say
sort of
whatever one has that
community
different
itself, but researchers and
we have done that, so I know a short run and
let's meet
Yeah.
once a year and actually we kind of build it
Okay.
kind of regular meetings as well and then once a year.
No, you told me, I was like, you was the worst of all.
In that case, might be, you know, it'd be like when we're speaking about, I don't know, BJV scheme, this is what we mean, these are the parameters that go into it, and so on and so forth, right? Like any implementation has to have this, right?
Actually, yeah, I really think this is like an important part of the question is sort of like,
problems that I can actually do to build a community around this and really make DP much easier to use. Like the reason is it is like and
honestly,
run and be here to like clear their follow-up questions. That's like a world that I want to be in, but I recognize that it's really hard for a couple years now, so like I want to think about like what can I do in the meantime to move us I towards noticed that like, let's say victory. we run,
And it's just,
we create
here's the statistic
one
that
submission,
everybody uses.
yes, yeah, definitely, definitely.
Sometimes that works marvelously.
Along
I
into
go
the-
by, there's a wonderful example where that was a change.
I'm Sydney, I'm a data scientist at Honaker.
That would have been the first one that was a lot worse.
Very similar to you, nothing's really in production fundamentals, but we've done things with interactive querying, or tried to. Do things with interactive querying, and then just like more general like statistical releases and things. And really our biggest barrier at the moment is just like organizational. So like coming back to quantifying risk, like us as researchers or the tech side of things, like don't even have a great answer. How can we communicate that to business? Like we might be like mostly internal customers, like the other teams. How do we get buy-in from them to actually adopt like DP and other privacy technologies? When it's hard for us to accurate what it is, or how accurate is this, or like going back to there's 99 people in a town, there's some decision on the threshold, like how do like quantifying how accurate something is in terms of their
risk range that's
And this is like, I mean, because this is like the prime, I mean, one
You were doing the,
very common in general, like not specific to DP, right? It's like,
Yeah.
you can imagine
Yeah.
having two
I
districts.
was just trying to through the stories that I mean, kind of positively trying to, well, trying to do the same thing, but then I'm learning something where I'm not doing it, not just by reading it, and then, wow, I find another how to change something. Sort of trying to put one thing and then turn out that people, like I was teaching that people have been trying to do the same thing for like 6 years, and like exactly the same path, and like 3 different groups, one Catholic, one in California, one in Paris, and one in Singapore, and like everyone failed, and like the same way. And like really like a year later, I think they ended up chatting to somebody like, oh yeah, something, oh yeah.
Accounting mechanisms for the same skills technology we have a better sound idea. I mean, there's a huge difference between releasing doing AIM in Epsilon 10 and doing a randomized response with Epsilon 10. Basically, here is the data. So, I mean, that's what I think what actually empirical scientists are doing. They implicitly take into account the mechanism itself.
You only get to publish things that work.
I think there's a
You're not really
layer
learning
for
about what works and what doesn't, right? You're not learning about
encoding the mechanism complexity into
Right, we do 2 proof of concepts, one with Epsilon, and then one with some municipalities we use.
So when you say Epsilon equals 10,
Yeah,
it's like over the worst
one
possible
way,
data distribution.
it was surprising,
And
when
you're
we were
saying,
working
yeah,
with Ericsson, it's like,
okay,
the
it's
way
not
to
the same
convince them,
thing, but it will be the same thing if
the
every
way to
single data point
convince
has the
them that
exact same values.
One
So,
thing,
then actually,
And also very smart attacker that have access to everything.
exactly.
so that the
one of which is
took the data set, remove one row that has the strongest signal,
Which was that
run again,
in this case,
and
we
it
have
looks like it doesn't change.
varying distributions and
That was
pitch mechanisms
just below
where you can say like all these, of all
Not
the
even an
distributions,
inference
the
of
worst case scenario, this is the
you know, like,
Sorry? But alternatively, if you have a pitch
yeah, I think it was
distribution
more on
with
the basic
you can
level,
then get kind of a
I
similar
don't understand what is, that the noise is kind of
so
high,
you can characterize
no way to cite.
you can characterize
I
epsilon
think that was the main
according to
This is what I
how
have to
epsilon is
so
mechanism for a predicted noise.
that was surprising. Right, so, and then, we don't have things to show, we have membership patterns, but you need to explain membership patterns, probability this and that. This was way easier, like visually seeing how it was. I think that's, maybe that's the part is, we're missing.
You're writing software and you want to describe it for the general population.
I'm talking now from the CEO of the company itself,
Now here's a piece of science. It's one of the most cited journals. Statistical impact is like,
how do you get
top
to
10 journal. Even though it's not like,
because, you know, if
10
you go
years
to a
ago.
customer
Like,
say, okay, this is my
who
data
cares who
schema,
actually built it,
We have-
right?
I synthetically
So,
generate
so one thing
data,
to pitch,
and then I present to them.
And we
You know,
is
some analytics
there's
and
a
say,
forum
please,
Right
you
now,
can
where you
enroll,
built a system and you want to
and then we
provide
run it again and
describe
it's
it
sent,
and get it
you
in
know?
journal,
Yeah.
they should
Really?
accept
you
it,
know,
right?
to
I mean,
convince
but maybe another
technical
one would
people,
be, if you
so
build something and you fail
that would be great.
spectacular,
It's,
maybe
it sounds
JP would like to
intuitive,
have like
right?
the,
So it doesn't
you
sound
know,
researchy.
a journal of spectacular failures, you know, like, this is a
Learn
from our mistakes, like, I don't know, or maybe we find another venue for that. Or like a whole workshop, conference, right? Like, the actual, you learn, don't
Yeah.
do different things. The worse the failure, the more likely we have to,
And
be
building
accepted.
they are millions of times higher
No, I think we should do it.
than like
Because I mean, the reason why it worked at JS was, again, it was online only. So
Maybe
it's
that
not
will
like,
work
you
with the
know,
lawyers.
started at night,
Maybe
they're saying stronger privacy guarantees.
you know, back when journals cost
I
money.
have some experiences, but you know,
And
with the lawyers.
part of acceptance rates was just
And I feel like even like a problem that I want to put on the list is exactly what you said, which is sort of like, sort of like we don't think of it as like interesting research, is like figuring out how to do this. Because this means for like most of academia who's not going to work on it, I'm thinking especially like with grad students, they're going to be like, well, that can't be a chapter of my thesis, so they don't want to work on it. If there is a way to sort of like convince
So it's, you know, it's less controversial.
the community, whatever that means, and it's like interesting and
There's not a venue
it's a
like that,
contribution, then all of a sudden you would have this swarm of like excited junior researchers who want to work on it and want to
That are like your character.
That's very interesting. How do you think,
Way
I mean,
off your career.
like you have, like you advise students,
Yeah.
how would you convince someone
What you're
who
doing
wants to do like the latest shiny things
or
or
like
like
a basically
to actually spend time on the
which is like
like
maybe
motivation
a
for
useful
deep.
thing.
Yes, so I think you can't do that.
Yeah.
What you can do is if you have a student who is like,
In the context of
who's like
deep
interested in
learning,
DP,
you mentioned
and they're like, I want to do the practical stuff, but I don't know if that can like become a paper that's published. Is it going to get me a job when I graduate? Is it going to go on my CV? And so I feel like having more sort of things like this where we acknowledge like, oh yeah, this is a
You know, like,
scientific
most of what we
contribution.
I think
coded in
and
was
they're
just
the kind of the approach
we
because you know this
want.
part of research
Yeah.
is about privacy.
Yeah.
Not access to resources,
But we-
like,
you know,
nobody's
we
like,
run
wow,
incentives.
the lawyer shouted at us. But, you know,
Yeah.
only two of us were reduced to
I just
tears,
feel
so we
like
passed.
for
Like,
everyone to be accessible.
I don't know what
So
you
I
think.
think maybe
We don't care.
maybe they know what to publish.
What is the method we're
Yeah.
They know
using?
what
At
to
the end of the
happen.
day,
You know,
Guide
no
us
one
like
leads the
the
same
stories
thing as
around
the
very
other.
the queries we want to
Yeah.
get, and this
You
is
know,
what is
people
the
that
you know,
example
type of person
materials
that they
of like how
accuracy.
data
So
can
it's
be handled.
like, okay, I have
marginal,
30 seconds
how you
of
can
file
approach
your
and
request.
the use cases and
how,
try not
which
to,
question should I put
you know,
to quickly improve
So
things?
kind of
Yeah.
our algorithm
Yeah.
was basically
Arrange
running,
use cases,
searching
but
for
I think
all
like
DP
IPF
solutions
was-
Yeah.
to
They love that,
satisfy
so-
this.
Yeah, yeah.
We need to make more with this people.
Yeah.
Exactly, so.
Yeah, good. I
So
love that.
explain that.
It's-
So
yeah.
to the
Amazing.
non-direct problem, but basically.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry,
Right.
I
So
thought
no,
this
so
was sorry. I had a
Yeah.
plan to jump in like NSF break, which like NSF is like on fire because
regulators and
there's
everything,
like
trying to have like few
the government to grant, but it was
case studies
rejected because
where they
they said
would
for a
go
lot of
kind
like
of
too
quite
heavily
in depth,
on the
not
OpenDP
necessarily kind of
library, and
technical,
there wasn't
but
anything novel
more
there.
into kind of questions around.
So we defined acceptance
So kind of
was
the
kind of
challenges,
the acceptance. It's
aspects
kind
of
of
kind of
you have we have an error
and
metric
kind of looking for
between the
Sort of like
potential
a recommendation
release
to
candidate data set
nonprofits,
and the original data set,
or
and the regular
startups
DP
where you
below.
don't necessarily have a person like us who works
And they were
on
kind
it,
of worst case,
and
like
they
the
want
maximum
to
error
do
over
DP,
all
but
DP
they
marginal
don't
but it's
know
must
that.
be less than
So
1%.
it's like how do you like help
Well,
them
I'll
use
tell you who I am.
If you do
But
linear
if you
regression,
like
the
cross
accuracy
reference
should be
because
this
you're
and this
just
value. And it was a full
Which is
process
really
and a lot of
difficult.
worksheets we developed to actually
It's just
define
even
the specific
things like
metric
this
of the
is sort of
different
like
data
how do you
users.
make this work?
And we now define space of
Yeah, but
there is a bunch of synthetic data algorithms.
Big, yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
it's all there,
Yeah.
Use our
hyperparameters.
privacy.
Actually,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
included
and the
like
like
broader
the
than
US government is on fire.
Yeah,
there is
so
multiple
like-
ways to do binning for the data, so we defined critical and possible binning that we're okay with. And actually, because we created very large
found that there is specific combinations of hyperparameters and data transformation that works amazingly
How
well.
it used to be an
It would be
optimization problem. It's
impossible,
very often like
or
both.
might be challenging to predict ahead of time. So actually by creating multiple options and running the mechanism over and over again until you successfully use private selection algorithm, we could actually narrow it down and get really high
But in
quality
general,
data
actually,
sets.
any gap of the document that can be in terms of
For them, they don't care
kind of
about it, they care about
bringing
inference
quality or
attacks.
internal.
Like inference attacks.
That in itself.
Maybe.
Healthcare.
You pay a factor of 2.
It's like, well, that's really
That's
groundbreaking.
Of course, kind of different
Actually,
For me
now
specific, they got like,
really
like
cool
inference
results.
You're
attacks
saying it's like almost like part of the computational
reasonable.
Factor of 2.
Production environment as well.
If-
And
Well,
let's say
But like we talked about that, but basically if you're a DP mechanism,
yeah, that's really cool.
I know this is pretty cool. It's actually was a new paper I will tell you in a second that is actually clear than that. So basically you have a DP mechanism that's going to release the output there and some quality score. Okay, so all our acceptance criteria or evaluation of the synthetic data was also DP by itself. So
Right, I'm gonna make a brief announcement.
DP end to
Wrap
end.
up your conversations and maybe like two minutes, continue all the exciting things, and then we're gonna do a share back at the end. I wanted to tell you to wind down and have one person prepare to share what your group spoke about.
Yeah,
This is each other.
yeah.
Right, this is the short part.
Yeah.
Sean, I'm sorry, what were you saying then?
So if you have a mechanism that's releasing the output you care about, plus some score, let's say between 0 and 1, okay? And here, run this, and this is Epsilon, run this mechanism over and over again. You don't release the result unless the score is equal to 1, the quality score is equal to 1. Then this, what the figure described right now is 2 epsilon.
I'd like to know.
This is correct.
So it, like,
Yes.
it's like, say I want to create 10 different potential.
Sorry?
Say I want to create,
Like for example,
Yes.
I can just draw, like, just different probabilities and just say, hey, well, this is my data.
Yes, and you do all that with DP way. Also the generation, then the quality score is DP as well.
And so I can just choose.
No, you don't choose. You can choose up. You need to predefine the threshold of the score. Well, they can do adaptively, but the theorem is different.
Well, if the quality score is also DP, then it's like it's a library.
No. You just, I mean, we can open the paper and do the math later. The point is like the key aspect. You don't release the intermediate that attempt. You just release the first one that passed your predefined threshold. And it's also secret the number of times you run the mechanism. I cannot tell you if I run it once or one. Yes. So this is you can. It's kind of so exponential mechanism involves using the best. Yeah. So you have a theorem for the best. It's kind of 3 epsilon. You can do that as well. But put it aside. If you so it's 2 epsilon. No.
Like, cause that's just one.
No, we don't. Well, it just doesn't matter.
you don't need someone like you know talk about GPU all the time.
I'm not sure. One of the things I was thinking is
Wait, guys. We'll talk about the panel. What is described? That's actually the release we did. Like that's actually what we did in practice. So the cool thing because we predefined the acceptance criteria.
also means
Almost all of them are those sensitivity, so it's supposed to be really display. One was really nasty ratio, but we can talk about it later. No, but it's important. The ratio about the tail, but that doesn't matter. So yeah, we run it multiple times, and I cannot tell you how long did it take to run this. I cannot tell you, but it worked out. And the cool thing, we do it through the way hyperparameter search in the background. We run different. I don't care if it's private and STA. I just want it to work. So it's in the background. Our algorithm runs different mechanisms. Not only that, it was trying different binning and combination. And all the utility metrics were predefined that they can work with the space of being
Even for me, sometimes from one line to the other one, that is a lot of jump. I think there's a lot of assumptions made,
sorry?
that's something that we run into, like, because a lot of times, like, before our users to start with the paper, it's like, okay, like,
Yeah,
I can read this,
they
you know, I can read this and
were
look at
marginal
some of the
like
code
those
that's provided,
sensibility,
but
that's easy.
there's some
We
assumptions
had a
in
linear
there
regression
that,
running on all
like,
the data. about the tail, if you think about it. And I can talk a lot, I spend a lot of time to figure out how to do that with low sensitivity. The answer we don't know yet. It's actually open research. There's a bit of papers coming recently. So that's actually took the most, like I want, let's drop it. We said, no, we cannot drop it. Like, we really want that. Yeah. So actually, well, it's published. It's an SFP. Yeah, it's like,
So it turns out nobody reads
apparently.
It's
It's in the registry. Actually, I looked at top tier registry. And one of the things, well, to do some shameless plug. So one of the things was because we were running in the environment, we didn't have GPU, we were very so actually our space of hyperparameter was so huge because I don't know. I mean, it's really important that. So we found public data of similar dataset and we ran on that, and that's how we narrowed down the space. So it's truly DP end to end. And our follow-up work was like, I hate that. I don't like that I need to depend on public data. So actually, paper like I discussed in Rogers yesterday, we used LLM just by the schema data. We generate data like LLM, public data, and apparently for choosing hyperparameters, it doesn't matter that you match the statistics. You just need something complex enough. Yes, yes. No, we just need to be complex enough. I know. That's for I sample arbitrarily complex distribution, the best hyperparameter of private. No, condition on the schema as well. No, you need to condition on the schema. The hyperparameter that work the best for private base and aim doesn't matter if you take arbitrary distributions, it's sufficiently have complexity. It's working well.
You're saying you're basically saying prior. You're saying the prior based on public data.
Yes.
So you could just ask chief clinicians, what do you think might work well? And they're like,
Yeah, so when we use LLM, we either generate.
All right, everyone, I hear so much conversation. I don't want to stop it because I love this, but I also want to hear what you talked about. So let's go around group by group and have one person from each group tell us what you talked about. What were some things that sort of arose and some interesting stuff? I'm going to start with this group because you're in the front, so I number you one. Who's your person? You have a laptop. Does that mean you're in charge? Okay.
Okay, these notes are not super clear. I think it started off that certain groups used like ROC curves over different epsilons, and then tried to work out like what the cost in dollars in terms of benefit might be for lower privacy versus risk, and then try to ask other stakeholders like how they would balance that. I'm not butchering that. Another was looking at kind of using a basket of privacy attacks. So especially in scenarios not where your privacy budget is very low, but maybe slightly higher, that you kind of rely on like a number of common like attacks on privacy type things just to sanitize it and get a good feel that you're not doing anything crazy. There was a concept of a risk-based kind of like menu of choices almost, so that other stakeholders could help like figure out what the right trade-offs here were. In some cases, there was very clear, like well-defined decision-making processes. So it was almost like an optimization problem of what privacy parameters and what utility, etc., would like satisfy the decision makers. In other cases, that was just not the case. Fair enough. I think we said when your privacy budget is like closer to what the theorists talk about, so like 1 or like, you know, sub 4 or something, in general, the risk is just like significantly less. We spoke about the kind of actual information gain you could possibly get from that as well. So if you can, like if there's enough information extracted to even be able to do any sort of membership attack so that you don't have to kind of rely on empiricals. And then it went over and we talked about the theoretical epsilons or privacy budget that's tracked versus the empirical privacy budgets. Sometimes it was said that your theoretical bounds can sometimes be quite loose, just based on, because it's quite a complicated system or something, and the empiricals can help kind of give you a better sense of if things are actually safe or not. And then we went into work that sounds like magic that everyone should read, that Shlomi did, which is kind of like advanced DP approaches over like bags of option. I'm definitely butchering this for you. We should all just talk to Shlomi in the pub afterwards, I think was the output of the conversation from that point, which maybe is the best way to say it, using like differential privacy to try to make good choices over many DP options when it comes to creating like statistics that you might release on kind of a census-like type topic. And sometimes that you can benefit from kind of prior or public information to kind of narrow down your set of choices involved in that. So it's kind of hard to summarize that in 2 sentences,
Nice, yeah,
but it's in a Google Doc.
That's good. You have like more than 2, so good. Thoughts from the room. I can be the mic lady as I walk around. I feel like we can also have a discussion if anybody has thoughts on these things. If not, I will go to the next group. You have the laptop, so I give you the mic again.
All right, thanks. Yeah, so I'm trying to summarize because, we were bouncing a bunch of ideas. So we were kind of agreeing on the table that, we need something to make it easy, the deployment, to convince people, right? So we need a clear storyline, or trying to figure out research direction that we could take of things that are missing when you try to deploy this in production. The first line was like, that has been talked as well by Chuck, privacy risk, right? So how you quantify the privacy risk, and maybe that help you to guide the epsilon that you will choose, or meaning the privacy protection level that you want, right? And there are different ways to do that, collecting all the possible attacks you have, classifying a little bit what the privacy attack registry is trying to do. But as well, there are other type of risks, which are utility risks, which usually are not mentioned. It's like, what is the risk when you introduce DP? You protect privacy, but what is the risk that the people might take the wrong decision, or based on the noisy data because it's just in the threshold, in the border, you might decide to take an action or not. There is not a clear way to quantify that, and that will be great when trying to convince people to use the technology. All right, so risk on the privacy side, but also on the utility side. Then we were talking more about convincing people, how they buy into the tech, right? So, and we were saying like, okay, we were discussing like, sometimes you go and say like, with DP, you are resilient against these attacks. But sometimes for certain hierarchy of executives and so on, that's too much, because then you need to explain what is an attack, what it's trying to achieve. It's too complicated. So I think we are missing, maybe graphical tools, you call it, or something like where you can see how differential privacy works in action. We were discussing like, okay, you need to convince someone to deploy DP. Please tell me your data schema. I generate synthetic data. I run some analytics, and then I ask to the person, pick any row in the data set. We take it out, we run it again, and then we get more or less the same analytics. Pretty simple, right? But it's something that executives can understand quite easily. Right. And then the last point was material for beginners. DP, the beauty of DP is like, it has been approached for different angles. You can be an engineer, you can be a researcher, computer scientists, statisticians, But sometimes the material is organized in a way that is focusing one of those communities, right? Not in all of them. And yeah, it could be very frustrating for someone, look some of the formulas, and then you understand why the formulas are like that, because there's a lot of things that has not been unfolded, and it can be a little bit discouraged. So how can we create material for beginners that covers all the angles in a coherent way, right? Yeah, those were the 4 lines of discussion we got.
Thoughts and comments and discussion around the room? No, none. Everyone agrees. All All right, this group over here, who's your person? All right.
I think I won the notes. Okay. So I think our main takeaway was basically kind of based on the talk that Ryan gave like the other day, or I don't know, I didn't. It was a topic. So let's start from there. Where we basically say, okay, the idea of like some DP building blocks and everything is like it's easy, but it's hard to like put them together and get it right. So instead of like implementing them like from scratch, we should like rely on libraries. But the problem with libraries can also be that they can be really confusing and really hard to get into, and this should not be a thing. Like we should have them easy to understand so people don't want to implement it themselves, but say, okay, yeah, like I'll use the library for sure. So we get more of the DP stuff right, and more people use it, and more people use it in the correct way. And yeah, I think that was like one of our main takeaways. So people can really depend on like the resources that are out there if they want to do it. Another thing that we talked about is that like with some stuff in research, you try something and it does not work out. And then you try something else and it does not work out. And then like sometime later you talk to other people and they're like, oh yeah, I tried the exact same thing and it did not work out. And there should be a way to like avoid that. So maybe to have like an option where you can also like publish something that does not work out. I think we had a name for it. It was like the most spectacular failures. So like have like some part of that in a journal or like somewhere where you can just check, okay, someone already did that. This is not a good idea. I should not do that. Like I should focus on something else. So have something like that. And also, yeah, it was suggested like apparently there's JSS, which is a journal, like it is online only. It's for statistics, and there you publish like description for software. And to have also something like that for like the DP part, so like maybe in addition to like libraries, but also like tools that you can use. And maybe there's like in such a journal, there's also part for the spectacular failures. So we have like somewhere to go to not do the work multiple times over and over and over again. Yeah, I think that's like my main comments. If you have something else. Okay.
Cool. I like taking notes because there's like a grand double share back after this. Thoughts and discussion from the room again? Yeah.
So I've had loads of spectacular failures. I think I've got ideas all the time, and then I find out I do not.
Take a hard drive, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like my Google collabs of things that have just died somewhere along the line. But very often, I would not want to put that down. Not because I wouldn't want to discourage someone not to give it a shot themselves, because I don't know. Like we're all, like I make mistakes for sure. Maybe someone knows some trick that then the whole problem becomes much easier. I would just be careful. You want to save other people time, but you also don't want to discourage people from trying things because they might find solutions that like you didn't get on the first whack either, right? Like that's like a trade-off, maybe.
Yeah, just a comment. There is a venue for this. There is the International Journal of Negative Results, which has kind of a funny acceptance rate of only 60%. So. But I do think that we should have a safe space to articulate our failures, and maybe, I mean, if they're well written, then people will identify why you failed, and then they won't have to fail in at least the same way. Maybe get a variety.
Gary, I just want to ask you, what's the reviewer 2 there saying? Oh, you could do better.
You could do worse.
I don't know this failure is exactly spectacular.
You're a really boring failure.
Yeah, so I'm thinking along the lines of Jack. Like it's great to say what doesn't work. We don't want to expose all of that because it can be fire back in PR in a bunch of things. But perhaps this is some crazy idea, since, you know, we can have all that information being opaque somehow in a machine learning model that you can use when you program in OpenDP, right? So in that way, you know, we don't need to expose all the bad behavior, but, you know, the data that the model was trained on, then that's, you know, people contribute, but we don't advertise, oh, these are all the mistakes you can do, right? Because otherwise, I think it will be more negative than positive, right? But you know, you still want to help people, so then we can do this machine learning model that has the good example and the bad example. That's it. Some ideas. Yeah.
Nice. So in our last maybe like 1 or 2 minutes until Sharon comes in and says that we're done, I want to ask people in general, how do you feel now? Was it a cathartic experience getting to vent of everything that has gone wrong in your life? Yeah. Do you want to say anything?
I can speak loudly if we're on.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone is on Zoom. I don't know how to tell. Yeah. Yes, yes, very loud.
At least, yeah. At least at our table, it was cool to know that all the things that I've had to think about, like in the privacy of my own office when working with decision makers, are things that other people have also struggled with to do as well. So I was like, okay, at least it's not just only me. So yeah, that at least was cool. And also just hearing that other folks have tried different strategies of like scoping out uses and really understanding, and that like the accuracy levels required for certain deployments is not just like a 1 or 2 week thing. It takes like real time and hours to do, and that has to be factored into the deployment time. And it wasn't just like me and other people on my team who forgot to do that or things of that nature.
I don't think people in differential privacy do this, but in other fields, we 100% do. We just like, should more people just use Stack Overflow? Yeah, like honestly, just be like.
Do we have a DP overflow?
There's not, but you could totally use cross validator. You could use like mass overflow. You could use one. But like, if there's like a
I think
community of
currently
people-
it's a DP. It's like OpenDP Slack is where it happens, which is like, you know, good or bad. It's good because you actually get a like fast response from like people who are sort of actively working on it, but also you have to like already be on the OpenDP Slack to be able to like post a question there.
And
old
OpenDP
questions.
Slack is also the free version, so you actually get like 3 months.
But also you lose history. You can't search in the same way, right? That's the same thing.
And now they're deleting it, so you know it's not just holding it hostage, but they're actually like, you know, they used to archive it and then you could pay for it to get it back, but now they're threatening to delete it.
Where they is Slack in this case.
Yes, not.
Okay.
Not.
Hello, Zoom audience. No, but like the idea of having Stack Overflow would be neat because you could leave comments on, like, you could say, hey, here's something I'm trying to solve. Somebody could say, here's an approach. Somebody else could say, I found problems with that approach. Here's possibly a better approach. You could have the same discussion that, that's what Jack was saying, right? Same discussion that other tech areas have on Stack Overflow. But I don't know how you get, 'cause we would just be lost actually on Stack Overflow. So is it possible to have a local one?
You
Tag it? Okay.
Yeah. And then you can subscribe to tag, so everyone who's interested in DP will just get notifications when people tag a DP question.
That'd be kind of neat.
In our last 1 minute, because I see that we're out of time, do people feel more sort of like optimistic about this? I know that we had a lot of like problem sharing, but also a good amount of like solution sharing too. How did that feel? Any final thoughts on that part or what arose?
I learned that Shlomi has a magic trick for making awesome data. That was cool.
That's great. What is your paper called, Shlomi?
Verf.dataset.pub.
Ah.
Go there.
Okay.
Can you put it in the Slack? Okay.
On the overflow. Any more final thoughts? Was it a good session? I want positive feedback. Yes, amazing, great, awesome. Thank you everyone for like coming and for being here. Those of you who are note takers, share the Google Doc with me and with James. If you don't have our email address, come and find us, or like you can find me online, do a Google search, or probably James too. That seems like a thing that should be out there. Sharon, do you have any news for us of what's next? amazing.